I want to start by thanking all of you for the tough work you're doing every day on the front lines on this issue. I'll start by just explaining a little bit about what the White House Council on Environmental Quality does. Essentially, we were created in 1970 to deal with the sort of interesting way the federal government is set up. If you care about a labor issue and you want to talk to the federal government, you go to the Labor Department. If you care about a health care issue and you want to talk to the federal government, you go over to Health and Human Services. But the environmental issues were kind of spread out a little bit. You've got Department of Interior takes care of the public lands. Unless it's a forest, then that's over at USDA. The oceans, of course, are over at the Commerce Department, because that makes a lot of sense. And we manage water resources and a lot of wetlands issues are over at the Department of Defense with the Army Corps of Engineers. Regulations are done over at EPA. Energy efficiency issues at the Energy Department. So what CEQ does all day long is focus on bringing these agencies together, focus on collaboration, focus on making sure on the big tough issues that the agencies are all working together. On a typical day, I just took a look at my calendar from yesterday. I either had meetings or conference calls on everything from an international whaling convention that we're working on with the State Department and the government of Japan, to dealing with Asian carp back in Chicago, from working with DOD on their relocation to from Japan to the islands of Guam, to talking about the work that's being done to restore the Everglades. Dealing with Congress on everything from the Clean Water Act restoration legislation to climate legislation. So day in and day out, what we're trying to make sure is support the agencies and the work that they're getting done, bringing them together so that on the front lines, what you see is the most coordinated, collaborative federal agencies that we can. And I think that perspective that we have gives us an interesting view on this administration. And I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about what I think some of the hallmarks of what this administration is trying to do on flooding issues, on water resources, but I think on environmental issues writ large. And I think the first key is really the fantastic people that are part of this administration, both the appointees that President Obama brought in and the incredible career staff that have been working for years, sometimes decades, on these issues at the various federal agencies. I think the key to the people that the President appointed to be part of these agencies is their real-life experience. When we have meetings, when we have debates over national policies, it's not just people who've been sitting around thinking about these issues, it's people who have been on the front lines. My boss, the chair of the Council on Environmental Quality, was a deputy mayor in Los Angeles, where she dealt with everything from siting transmission lines to dealing with, working with FEMA on floodplain maps right there on the ground. Of course, Rock Salt, who brings to the table experience actually getting compromises to happen, actually getting work done and moving forward. And I think what I hope you're seeing, and what we push every day, is that it's the collaboration not just between agencies, but between the new political appointees and the career staff who bring years of experience, who bring know-how to this, who certainly didn't take these jobs in the federal government for the enormous salaries that they're getting, who are there because they want to make progress on these tough issues. And that collaboration really, I think, is the hallmark of this administration. Sometimes I think in tough budget times like we have right now, it's when the most creative ideas can happen, when the most innovative things can be pushed forward, and that's what you're seeing, I think, as the agencies all work together. And I think there's a couple of initiatives that I'd just like to talk about that I think highlight all of this. The first, and all of these, I'd encourage you to take some time, go to whitehouse.gov, the website for the administration, and under our page, under the Council of Environmental Quality, we give some details and actually a chance for public comment on a lot of these. One of these that was recently rolled out last week was a strategy, a collaborative strategy by state and local and federal agencies to deal with the Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake and its watershed is something, there's been lots of talk over the decade, lots of attempts, lots of fighting, lots of arguing. And what you have in this administration is agencies working closely together to put together a plan that will actually get implemented and done. The key collaboration there was between USDA, working with agricultural communities, working with the source of a lot of those nutrients that are causing the problems in the bay, working closely with EPA, working closely with the agencies that deal with the development that's going on to put together a collaborative plan. So I'd encourage you to take a look at the work that was done there. Another role that CEQ has played has been to help support and stand up the Federal Interagency Floodplain Task Force, a place where FEMA, you'll be hearing from Director Fugate later on, where FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, and all of these other resource agencies can be together at the same table, making sure that our policies align. When federal policies don't align, you guys are the ones at the front lines who are hearing one thing from this side of the federal government, another thing from another. All of us, I think, need to work together and, to change that, and this task force is a place where that's going to happen. Sometimes what the administration focuses on is the legislative battles. One area where CEQ worked with USDA, with Army Corps of Engineers, with EPA, and the Department of Interior was to push Congress on the Clean Water Act and dealing with some of the Supreme Court cases that happened earlier in this decade that put into question the jurisdiction the jurisdiction of what's covered and what isn't by the Clean Water Act. This clearly is an issue that there's lots of controversy around, but I think one thing we can all agree is that is the need for Congress to act to provide some clarity so that federal regulators, all of you who are working on this day in and day out, people who are applying for permits can know what the rules are and can have a clear way forward.